Good afternoon, listeners, and welcome to Get Life Educational Empowerment. That is GITLIFE. Get it together, live in full expectancy. Educational empowerment on the Awesome Radio Network, broadcasting on WECU 107.5 FM and 1570 AM. And if you're joining us live on Awesome Radio, Facebook, or YouTube, welcome, or should I say, welcome back to our viewing and listening family. I'm your host, Sherida Suggs, educator, principal, motivator, and your partner in purpose. As we get it together, I want to start with something real. March. It's known for madness, upsets, unexpected outcomes, but if we're honest, for educators, March can bring a different type of madness. It is a time of the year when behavior shifts, patience can run thin, pressure can build, and sometimes things start to unravel. This is the season where things get revealed. Students struggle, staff has tension, burnout, and yes, even bullying can occur. Not just student bullying, but adult to adult behavior that can feel just as heavy. So today we're shifting the conversation from March Madness to March Mental Wellness. This is about protecting our peace. This is about reclaiming our power. This is about empowerment, taking a stand against burnout and bullying in any form. This will be the epitome of today's broadcast. So let me ask you a question. How many of us this year in January said to ourselves, this year is going to be a different year? We set our goals, we set our routines, we promised ourselves that we are going to protect our peace, we're going to protect our minds, we're going to start the year off strong. Maybe you started exercising, maybe you started journaling, maybe you started setting boundaries. Maybe you committed to prayer, meditation, or quiet time. And if you did those things, kudos to you, because that truly does matter. But here is the real question. How are you maintaining it? Are you maintaining it? Because starting something is one thing, but maintaining it is something different. It's March now. Last week, we talked about March maintenance. The year has picked up speed. Work is demanding. School schedules are busy. Responsibilities are piling up. So let's check in honestly with ourselves. Are you still taking care of your mental health? Or have you slowly slipped back into survival mode? If you find yourself burning out by the end of every week, if you are working hard Monday through Friday, and you are so exhausted on the weekend that you can hardly function, if you are consistently saying, I just have to make it to spring break, then the answer might be no. And that's okay to admit. But it's also a sign that it may be time for a mental health reset. Because March maintenance isn't just about classrooms, it's not just about homes and communities. It's about taking care of that mind of yours, that carries you through all of these spaces. Mental health and maintenance can start with something very simple, just pausing. You see, we live in a culture that praises busyness. If you're always moving, always working, always doing something, people assume that you're being productive. But constant busyness without restoration leads to burnout and exhaustion. Sometimes maintenance means giving yourself permission to slow down for a moment. Take a walk, step outside, get some fresh air, turn the notifications off for 30 minutes to an hour. Sit quietly without trying to solve a problem. Those small pauses can help reset your mind. Another form of mental health March maintenance is not overextending yourself because you don't want to disappoint people. We say yes to everything, requests, meetings, parties, every obligation. But when we constantly pour into others without fulfilling ourselves, eventually the well runs completely dry. Wellness sometimes means learning how to say, I can't do that right now. I'm sorry. I need some time to recharge. I'll help, but I also need to take care of myself. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it means just saying no or just being quiet. Another powerful part of mental health and maintenance is connection. Human beings are not meant to carry everything alone. Talk to someone you trust, a friend, a trusted colleague, a family member, someone positive. Sometimes just speaking out loud about things that you are experiencing lifts a weight that you did not even realize that you were carrying. And here's another important piece: rest. No, not just sleep. Although sleep is incredibly important, but just rest. Rest from constant thinking, rest from constant problem solving, rest from constant pressure. For some people, rest looks like reading a book. For others, it might mean breathing. It might mean music, art, poetry, or simply spending time in nature, spending time alone. Whatever restores your mind and spirit, that is part of your March maintenance plan. Because the truth is, you cannot pour from an empty cup. Teachers cannot support students effectively when they are completely burned out. Parents cannot show up fully for their children when they are mentally drained. Community leaders cannot uplift others if they are running on fumes. Mental health maintenance helps us to show up as our best selves for the people who need us, the people who depend on us. And here is something else to remember: maintenance does not mean perfection. You're not going to have every day figured out. Some weeks will feel heavier than others. Life will throw unexpected challenges your way. But maintenance means being aware enough to check in with yourself and make adjustments when needed. Maybe your adjustment is getting back into your morning routine. Maybe it's turning your phone off earlier at night so that you can get more rest. Maybe it means waking up in the morning and taking a brisk walk before getting ready for work. Maybe it's scheduling for time, doing something that you enjoy. Whatever it is, the key is intentional care, because your mind deserves the same level of maintenance that we give our classroom, our offices, our homes, and our schedules. So as we move through this month, I want you to encourage yourself. Teachers, parents, and community members, take a moment and ask yourself, what does my mental health need right now? Do I need rest? Do I need to set boundaries? Do I need to make connections? Do I need to take a moment of stillness? Whatever the answer is, give yourself permission to take that next step. Because when we take care of our minds, we strengthen our ability to lead, to learn, to love, and to serve others well. And that, my friends, is what pivoting from March madness to March mental health and wellness is all about. So, this brings us to something that is incredibly important: social emotional learning. This time of the year, social emotional learning in the classroom becomes especially critical because students are experiencing a lot. They are dealing with academic pressure, they're navigating friendships, social challenges, and they're figuring out who they are and where they fit into the world. Sometimes they bring worries from home straight into the classroom. Sometimes they're trying to protect emotions that they don't even have the words to describe. When students don't have the tools to manage their emotions, it can show up as conflict, disrespect, frustration, or disruptive behavior. That's why social emotional learning matters so much. Students need to understand that part of being in a healthy school community means treating each other with dignity and respect. It also means treating ourselves with dignity and respect. Respect for teachers, respect for classmates, respect for the classroom environment. See, in the classroom, we are blessed with the opportunity to teach and model empathy, helping students to learn how to see situations from someone else's perspective. We can help them to develop conflict resolution skills, showing them how to talk through disagreements instead of letting small problems turn into big catastrophes. We can teach self regulation, helping students recognize when they are feeling overwhelmed and giving them strategies to calm themselves and refocus. These are life skills because the reality is that students are not just learning math, reading, science, and social studies. They are learning how to be human in a world filled with challenges and emotions. When students develop strong social emotional skills, several powerful things happen. Classrooms become respectful environments, inclusive environments, welcoming environments. Students learn how to communicate more effectively, conflicts are resolved more peacefully, and students feel safer and more supported in their learning spaces. Social emotional learning also helps students to become more aware of their own mental health. This is so important as they begin to understand that it's okay to feel frustrated sometimes. It's okay to feel stressed. It's okay to feel mad. It's okay to need help. But they also learn healthy ways to cope with these feelings. And when we continue and combine strong academics with strong emotional support, we create schools where students can truly thrive. Because education is not just about what students know, it's also about how they become. So, as we continue our March Madness to March mental health and wellness, let's remember that maintaining our mental health and teaching our students to care for theirs is one of the most important investments that we can make. When our minds are healthy, relationships are stronger. When relationships are stronger, classrooms are safer, schools are safer. And when classrooms and schools are safe and supported, students are free to learn, grow, and reach their fullest potential. And that is the true power of March mental health and wellness. For you, your students, and your community. When we return from break, we're going to dig a little deeper into protecting our peace against burnout and bullying. I am so glad you're here. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Awesome Radio on WECU 107.5 FM and 1570 AM. Welcome to another empowering broadcast with Get Life Educational Empowerment. Whether it's from a student, parent, colleague, staff member, admin, or even a community member, shucks, you may even feel yourself with your own negative phrases of dissatisfaction. But I want you to stop. No one deserves to be bullied or burned out. And before we go any further, if this is you, I need for you to hear this. If it is not you, I need for you to share this with someone else. You are not alone, and what you're feeling is valid. Now, let's talk about what's really happening because too often teachers are expected to just handle it. But what is it really? It is being spoken to disrespectfully by students, parents, other staff members, feeling unsupported when issues arise. It is being questioned, criticized, or undermined. It is navigating tension with colleagues. It is managing pressure from parents and sometimes feeling powerless in your own workplace. And here's the part that we don't always say out loud. Sometimes teachers feel bullied, and sometimes they actually are bullied, which is another it. Not just by students, but sometimes by other adults through tone, through dismissiveness, through passive aggression, through lack of support, through being made to feel like their voice doesn't matter. And that truly takes a toll on a person. And it shows up as emotional exhaustion. You don't look forward to waking up in the morning and going to work. It can show up as anxiety, panic attacks. It can show up as feeling guarded all day, walking on eggshells, losing the joy that you once had. It can show up as you wondering what in the world you did to deserve this. But let me say this clearly, you don't deserve it. Bullying can be any behavior that strips you of your sense of safety, dignity, and enjoyment. And you don't have to deal with it. Sometimes it just happens, and no one deserves to feel that way. In a place that you enter day to day to serve and make a difference. I was having a conversation with my daughter just the other day, and she asked a question that caused me to reflect. She asked me, how can a teacher be bullied? And I told her, I hope that you never have to experience this for yourself. Because when we think about bullying, we usually picture students being bullied. But the truth is, adults can be bullied too. Teachers can be bullied as well. Administrators. Let me break it down. See, bullying is not just one incident. Bullying is repeated behavior, intentional actions that are meant to harm, intimidate, or make someone feel powerless over time. Bullying happens when someone or a group of people try to take away another person's control or power or their voice, their sense of safety. Let's talk about how this shows up for teachers. A teacher can be bullied when students repeatedly disrupt instruction on purpose to undermine authority. Students can use disrespectful language, threats, or intimidations. Students can lie to their parents. Students can record teachers, post them online, or try to embarrass them publicly. Students can get into a teacher's face and dare a teacher to touch them. False accusations can be made to damage a teacher or an educator's reputation by parents or students. Parents or community members can attack, demean, or discredit a teacher without cause. Colleagues can isolate, exclude, or intentionally create a hostile working environment. Administration can fail to support or protect their teachers, allowing harmful behaviors. Bullying can also happen when there's a majority over a minority. When there are teachers in a classroom with more than 25, 30 students, if that group decides that they're not going to comply, if they decide that they're going to challenge that teacher, it can cause a sense of fear, inconsistency, or lack of support that one adult can become outnumbered. And here's the truth, when a person or group senses that they can mistreat someone and get away with it, nothing happening, they don't stop. They continue, they escalate, they push forward, they push further. That is bullying. And it doesn't just affect instruction, it affects mental health, it affects confidence, it affects whether a teacher can feel safe, whether walking into their own classrooms. So, what can we do about this? First of all, we can raise awareness. We can stand firm. We can stay consistent. We can support each other. We can talk about it. We can document everything. We set clear boundaries and expectations. We empower ourselves. And most importantly, we do not normalize disrespect. We do not tolerate disrespect. It is not okay. Protecting ourselves and our mental wellness is necessary. You are not powerless. You should not feel powerless, and you are not alone. I want to add this perspective because while it may be uncomfortable to acknowledge, it is an unfortunate reality in some school environments. Bullying can occur when there is a perceived balance of power, imbalance of power. It can often be based on perception, experience, number, or circumstances. For example, when an individual is new to a school, a district, or even a profession, there can be an unspoken vulnerability. Veteran staff members can intentionally or unintentionally exert influence in a way that makes a new teacher or staff member feel overlooked, dismissed, or unsupported. Without proper guidance or inclusion, this can create an environment where the new staff member feels unable to advocate for themselves. I want to share a Get Life story time about a colleague of mine because this clearly illustrates how these dynamics can develop and how repeated actions over time can impact an educator. And it can affect them mentally. So, this particular colleague entered into her first year of teaching as both the newest member of the team and the only one that did not share the same background as the rest of the group, as this particular colleague attended an HBCU, whereas the others attended a more popular university. This particular staff member was a minority. From the beginning, there was already a perceived imbalance. She was a minority in more than one way, and she was still learning the expectations of the school. And on the first day of school, she walked into her classroom excited and optimistic about the new chapter in her life. However, that excitement was quickly disrupted. First thing that morning, she was pulled aside and confronted for something as simple as, why did you ask another colleague on another grade level a question about how to use the curriculum resources that are in your classroom? It was later discovered was that the teacher that she did ask the question to over the weekend contacted the other team members to tell them that she asked that question, which should have been a routine professional exchange, but it turned into something larger. Instead of being supported, she was scrutinized, and she found herself apologizing, not just for asking the question, but for unintentionally disrupting what seemed to be an unspoken norm. At the same time, she was left wondering, what did I do wrong? Why am I apologizing? Why couldn't I just ask a question? You see, what happened was that particular day, which was her first day in the classroom, her colleagues left work at a reasonable hour around 5:30 p.m. and she was there alone figuring out things in the classroom on her own. And in an effort to be proactive, she reached out to the teacher that was previously occupying that classroom that she's now serving in, hoping to get clarity and to locate the needed materials. Even then, she questioned, why did such a simple act escalate the way that it did? She was hoping that that particular moment would be isolated, but it wasn't. Throughout the entire year, there were repeated instances where she was being blamed and called into unnecessary meetings, explaining herself being accused of things where there were subtle and inexcusable actions that left her feeling targeted. These behaviors created a pattern for her. She began to feel isolated. She began to feel unsupported and uncertain of where she could turn. Internally, she described the group as unapproachable and unwelcoming, controlling. In her mind, she called them the mean girls because they were mean to her, not from one major incident, but due to several small incidents, repeated incidents. She felt that her growth was being limited and as if she was the problem and expected to follow their rules without having the opportunity to develop any independency. This is an important point. Bullying in a professional environment is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it shows up as control, exclusion, repeated criticisms, or withholding support and information, especially when it is directed into someone who is new or perceived as different or a minority. As the year progressed, the emotional toll became heavier, very significant. She experienced anxiety about going to work each day, unsure if she would be pulled aside again for another unexpected meeting regarding something that she did not mean to do. Was she going to be placed in another uncomfortable situation? Without a strong support system, these feelings intensified, ultimately leading her to make the difficult decision to lead what she once believed was going to be a positive school and district experience. And the impact of that bullying did not end there. It carried over into her second year of teaching in a new environment, in a new school, carrying the same weight from her previous experience. She found herself there hesitant to operate as a teacher. She found herself feeling afraid to do things on her own and take initiative. She found herself afraid to utilize the autonomy that was actually expected for her from her because she was used to being placed in a box. She was used to being told what to do. During her first year, she was not given the opportunity to grow independently or make decisions. Her professional confidence and competence was affected tremendously. She was even afraid to ask for help. It wasn't until her third year that she began to fully step into her role as a classroom leader. With time, support, and self reflection, she rebuilt her confidence. She grew into a leader within her grade level and eventually into a leader within her school. Now, her passion is rooted into something different. She committed to helping other educators feel supported, empowered, and confident in their practice so that they would never have to question their own worth or their potential based on the actions of others. She works to ensure that teachers are able to become the best versions of themselves so that in turn, they can help students grow into being the best versions of themselves and who they are meant to be. And that is why this conversation matters because when repeated actions are directed towards someone who is already in a vulnerable position, new, different, or unsupported, it creates an opportunity for imbalance to be exploited. But with awareness, support, and intentional leadership, those patterns can be disrupted. And that's why we're here. Those patterns can be placed in a culture where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Similarly, I have seen situations where international teachers new not only to the school, but to the entire country and that country's culture into a classroom already carrying uncertainty. They're learning new systems, they're learning new expectations and student dynamics all at once. And that uncertainty, when it is met with resistance, lack of cooperation and empathy, or testing behaviors from students, it can quickly become overwhelming and hurtful. What should be a supported and even joyful transition can instead feel like isolation and damaging. The reality is that most educators begin the school year with some level of nervousness anyway. That's natural. They're nervous about how the new school year is going to begin. They're nervous about how their students are going to receive them. They're nervous about those new experiences that are going to take place. The nervousness can be perceived as fear, and it can sometimes be taken advantage of and exploited. Students, like all individuals, respond to what they observe. If they can observe fear and those boundaries are not firmly established, and if they can sense inconsistency and hesitation, their behavior can escalate. Without timely support, a teacher may begin to feel outnumbered and unsure of how to regain control of their learning environment. Bullying in schools is not just limited to student behavior. It can also take place in more subtle but equally impactful ways. Repeated challenges to a teacher's authority in front of peers, intentional disruption of instructional time to undermine classroom structure, use of social media to embarrass or discredit staff, exclusion from team decisions or lack of professional inclusion, dismissive communication or lack of responsiveness from colleagues, ongoing criticism without constructive feedback or support, situations where concerns are raised but not addressed appropriately, allowing patterns to continue. Additionally, interactions with parents and guardians can sometimes contribute to this dynamic. Families, they are essential partners in education, and their voices do matter. However, there can be times when emotions can run high, and a teacher or staff member, while maintaining their professionalism, can be subject to raised voices, accusations, cursing, disrespectful communication. Because educators are expected to remain composed and solution focused, this can create a situation where the staff member feels unable to respond fully, leading to a sense of imbalance that is detected and can be taken advantage of. Therefore, parents can sometimes bully teachers and staff members as well. And it is important to acknowledge this, that these are realities, but they're not assigning blame. However, they are recognizing patterns so that they can be addressed constructively. A healthy school environment is one where new staff members are mentored and supported. Cultural transitions are met with patience and understanding. Classroom expectations are reinforced consistently across the school. Staff concerns are taken seriously and addressed in a timely manner. Communication among staff, students, and families remain respectful and solution oriented. When these structures are in place, the likelihood of bullying behaviors, burnout, mental instability significantly decreases. Ultimately, The goal is to ensure that every educator, every staff member, every student, every parent, community member feels supported, respected, and empowered to do their job effectively. When students feel safe and supported, they are better able to create the success that lies within themselves. Now, let's take a moment to think about how much this is truly affecting us. Teachers, staff members can leave work every day with a sense of heaviness and burden. Here are some signs that the madness is impacting your mental wellness. You wake up already tired before the day even starts. You feel on edge. You feel like you're always bracing yourself for something. You find it hard to make a connection with your students. You replay situations over and over in your mind. You're overwhelmed. You overreact, or you completely shut down. You start to isolate yourself. You find yourself complaining, having panic attacks, and maybe you don't even feel like yourself anymore. And let me ask you something. I really want you to think about this. When was the last time you truly felt like you could be yourself at work? Not just functioning, not just surviving. When someone asks you, "How are you doing today?" do you respond, "I'm here"? If that question hits you, then that is something worth paying attention to. Now, here is where the shift from March madness to March mental wellness happens. Because where you may feel powerless, you need to know that you are not powerless. Now, you may not be able to control everything around you, but you can control how much of it you carry and how you respond to the madness that inevitably does present itself, sometimes on a daily basis. Everything that comes at you is not meant to be caught and held. In an effort to protect your mental wellness, you must learn to put some things down. Drop it. The good Lord tells us to cast all of our cares upon Him. The good Lord tells us that the battle is not ours to fight. Learn that it is okay to have boundaries. Boundaries are not disrespect, boundaries are protection, boundaries are taking care of yourself. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to protect your time. And you are allowed to speak to each other in a respectful tone. You are allowed to say, "Let's revisit this when we are able to have a productive conversation." You are allowed to say, "I'm focusing on solutions." And sometimes you are allowed to say nothing at all. And you are allowed to walk away. Someone walked up to me just the other day to present to me gossip that they heard. My response to them was, "I don't listen to gossip. I listen to facts and solutions." What solutions do you have? This cut the entire conversation, and the person was unable to bring the gossip to me that they were intending to. It also allowed a productive exchange where I was able to express what I needed to make the task productive. Remember that not every situation deserves your energy. And here are some other things to remember. Just pause before reacting, respond, don't absorb, document facts, not emotions. And most importantly, do not internalize what was never yours to carry. because protecting your mental wellness is not just a mindset. It's also a daily practice. And I want to give you some strategies that you can start using immediately. First, detach emotionally from negativity. Not everything requires your emotional investment. Secondly, find your people. Find your safe colleagues, the ones who will uplift, not drain. Third, protect your time. Your planning time is not optional, it is necessary. Fourth, create a daily reset. Before school, take a moment, breathe, set your intention. After school, release the day. Don't carry it home, even if it's just 5 minutes. That reset matters. And finally, give yourself permission to step away from conflict. Not every issue needs immediate engagement. Sometimes the most powerful thing that you can do is disengage, disconnect. Now, let's talk about taking that stand, because silence often protects dysfunction, not people. Standing against bullying does not mean being confrontational. It means being concise. It means being clear. It means being grounded. It means being intentional. It means empowerment. Speaking truth respectfully, supporting colleagues who may feel targeted, refusing to participate in negativity. Guys, you don't have to hear it, walk away from it, but you can hear this, that not every battle is yours to fight. And it's okay, because your responsibility is not to fix everything. Your responsibility is to protect your peace so that you can move forward and help the students and serve the students that you show up for every single day. When we return, I want to talk with you about how hurt people can sometimes hurt people and how we can all contribute to a well balanced, mentally nurturing environment. You're listening to Get Life Educational Empowerment on the Awesome Radio Network. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Get Life Educational Empowerment on the Awesome Radio Network. If you would like to be a guest on our show, you are more than welcome. Email us at getlifeempowerment@gmail.com, or you may call the radio station at 252-756-2008. Let's keep it real. Education is a high demand, high stress profession where stress goes unmanaged sometimes and support can feel unlimiting sometimes. Expectations can be overwhelming, and it can impact how we show up in our classrooms and in our interactions with others. It is important to say this carefully and respectfully and carefully. At times, some of those stressors can unintentionally influence how educators respond to students. This does not come from a place of malice. More often, it comes from fatigue, frustration, or feeling unsupported. However, the impact can still be significant. These are ways that bullying can be recognized from teachers. Think about how you speak to your students. Using sarcastic tones that can be embarrassing or discouraging towards a student, repeatedly calling out the same student in a way that feels targeting rather than supportive, dismissing students' voices or not allowing space for them to express themselves, holding certain students to different standards, whether intentionally or unintentionally, reacting more harshly in moments of frustration instead of responding with consistency and care or public correction that could be handled privately. These moments, especially when repeated, can affect a student's confidence, sense of belonging, and willingness to engage. And please remember, this is not about blame, it's about awareness because hurt people. The same way that educators can feel the impact of repeated negative interactions, students can as well. That is why protecting our mental health is not just about us, it directly impacts the climate of our classrooms. When we are supported, regulated, and intentional, when we support ourselves, we are better able to respond rather than react, creating a positive, learning environment requires care on all sides. It requires reflection, support, and a commitment to growth for adults and students alike. When an educator is exposed to repeated negative interactions, whether from students, colleagues, parents, or an accommodation of all three, it can become emotionally and mentally exhausting. Burnout doesn't usually happen overnight. It builds. It looks like constant fatigue, even after rest, feeling anxious about coming to work, becoming more reactive or less patient than usual, questioning your effectiveness or purpose, withdrawing from colleagues or family members, or avoiding collaboration, losing the passion and joy that once made you love what you do. When someone feels targeted or consistently challenged without resolution, that stress compounds. Over time, it can shift from frustration to exhaustion and from exhaustion to burnout. And here is why March mental wellness matters so much. When educators are burned out, it becomes harder to give students the very best of who we are. It's hard for us to present ourselves on a daily basis as happy and cheerful or even professional when we feel bogged down and in a slump. So the question becomes, how do we interrupt this cycle? Because it is important that we are professional. It is important that we are ethical. It is important that we have a sense of healthy cheerfulness and healthy ways of being able to be approachable, healthy ways of being a team member. So, how do we interrupt this cycle in order to protect ourselves first so that we can protect our students, our colleagues, our family members, and those that are around us on a daily basis, those that need us and those that love us? Let's talk about it. First, it's important to recognize again that you are not powerless, even when situations feel overwhelming. Keep a record of negative and repeated behaviors and interactions. This provides clarity and support when concerns need to be elevated. Set clear, consistent boundaries. Whether students, colleagues, or parents continually communicate negatively, calm, firm responses establish respect over time. Address concerns early and professionally. When appropriate, have direct, solution focused conferences with the person that you have the problem with. Many situations escalate when they have not been addressed appropriately. Seek support systems, positive support systems. Connect with trusted colleagues, mentors, or administrators. No one should navigate these experiences alone. Be sure to always take the problem that you have to the person that you have the problem with. And if you need to, Have a witness present. Use established channels. Follow school and district protocols when these behaviors persist. Systems are in place to protect and provide structure and accountability. Protect your professionalism and your peace. Not every situation requires an emotional response. In fact, not responding emotionally truly shows growth and maturity. Staying grounded helps maintain control even when others are out of control. Protect yourselves from burnout. Give yourself permission to set limits. You cannot do everything, and you are not expected to. Prioritize what matters most. Remember, we are talking about protecting our mental wellness and resisting burnout. Separate your identity from the moment. A difficult day does not have to decline your identity or your purpose. Take intentional breaks when possible. Even small moments to reset during the day can make a difference. Reflect, but don't internalize. Learn from experiences, but don't carry what does not belong to you. Celebrate small wins. Progress in education is not always loud, but it is always meaningful. Stay connected to your why. Why are you there? Why do those students need you? Why does your family need you? Remember what brought you into this work in the first place. Move forward with purpose. Protecting your mental health is not just about self care, it is about sustainability. Because when educators feel supported, confident, and balanced, classrooms become more stable, relationships become stronger, students feel safer and more engaged, ultimately receiving the very best of us, not what's left of us. When we take care of ourselves, we are better equipped to take care of the students who depend on us each and every single day. Let us pray. Gracious God, we come before you today with gratitude for the calling you have placed on our lives as educators, leaders, and servants of our community. Thank you for the strength that you provide, even on the days that we feel weary. Lord, we ask you to cover every single teacher, every single staff member, every single leader with peace that surpasses all understanding. For those that feel burdened, discouraged, or isolated, remind them that they are not alone. Restore their energy, renew their spirits, and remind them of their purpose. Help us to create environments rooted in respect, patience, understanding, and compassion. Teach us to respond with wisdom instead of a reaction, with grace instead of frustration, and with strength instead of fear. Where there is tension, bring unity. Where there is conflict, bring resolution. Where there is burnout, bring restoration. When there is hurt, bring healing. Protect our minds, our hearts, and our well being so that we may show up each day as our best selves for our students. Help us to lead with integrity, to speak with kindness, and to act with fairness in all situations. Thank you for guiding our steps. Thank you for strengthening our voices. And thank you for aligning our actions with purpose. We thank you for the opportunity to make a difference, and we ask that you continue to equip us for the work ahead. It is in your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen. And it is so. As we close, I want to bring it back to where we started. March may be madness, but it can also bring clarity because when things are revealed, it shows us what needs to change, not to break us, but to strengthen us. So here's what I want you to carry with you: protect your peace. Guard your mind, guard your heart, stand in your power, and do not allow anyone, and I mean anyone, to overpower your purpose because you are needed. You are valuable. And this, friends, is the essence of Get Life. Everyone deserves to be mentally stable, feel safe, supported, and respected. Whether you are a student, staff member, or community member, you are a VIP. So stay inspired, stay empowered, and always remember, get life, get it together. Because when we commit to this work, we are not just shaping classrooms, we are shaping lives. We are shaping the future, our future. I am Sherida Suggs, and this has been Get Life Educational Empowerment on the Awesome Radio Network. I invite you to tune in every Tuesday from 3 to 4 p.m. as we explore real experiences from today's schools and communities. Until next time, now and forever, let's get it together, live in full expectancy, empower education. Thank you so much for joining us.